You see her every morning, that megawatt smile, that infectious laugh, the woman who seems to have bottled sunshine and uses it as her morning coffee. Kelly Ripa is an icon of energy and optimism. But what if we told you that behind that brilliant smile, a storm has been brewing, a personal struggle so profound it threatened to dim her very light? And what if the source of that struggle wasn't a stranger or a career setback, but the people she holds closest to her heart? This isn't a story of gossip. This is a story of silence, of expectations, of a family learning to speak a new language of love, and the shocking, inspirational choice Kelly made that changed everything. This is a story for anyone who has ever felt the weight of family duty or wondered if it's too late to rewrite the rules of their own life. For over 2 decades, Kelly Ripa has been America's morning alarm clock, a jolt of joy to start the day. She makes it look effortless, doesn't she? The perfect career, the legendary partnership with Ryan Seacrest, the picture-perfect family with her husband, Mark Consuelos. It's a life that seems, from the outside, to be a masterpiece of balance and bliss. But here's the first secret, one so many of us in our 60s understand all too well. The higher you climb, the harder the wind blows. And for Kelly, that wind began as a whisper, a quiet, gnawing feeling that the very foundation of her happiness, her family, was shifting beneath her feet. The children, Lola, Joaquin, and Michael, are all grown. The nest, as we say, is empty. And while we often talk about that emptiness as a space, we rarely talk about the new sounds that fill it. The sounds of silence, of missed calls, of group chats you're no longer a part of. Kelly was facing a problem so many of us face. She had become the CEO of her family, the problem solver, the rock. And in the process, she had become a manager, not a mom. The conversations became logistical. When are you coming home? Do you need anything? Instead of emotional. And in that quiet space, a terrifying question began to form. Who am I if I'm not needed in the same way? But this was only the beginning, because the silence at home was about to be shattered by a conflict she never saw coming. And it would come from the one relationship she thought was unbreakable. For so many women, the relationship with our mother is our first and most powerful mirror. For Kelly, her mother Esther has always been her champion, her confidant. But as we navigate our own 60s and our parents enter their 80s and beyond, the dynamic changes in ways that can be both beautiful and heartbreaking. The problem Kelly faced wasn't one of love, but of language. Esther, from a different generation, views family through a lens of unwavering duty and closeness. She represents a world where you are always there, physically present, the matriarch holding everyone together. But Kelly's world, and the world of her children, is different. It's global, digital, and spread out. The conflict arose from this simple, painful disconnect. Esther couldn't understand why Kelly wasn't reining in the kids, why she wasn't insisting on weekly family dinners, why she was allowing them to pursue careers and lives that took them far from New York. What Esther saw as a mother's loving duty, Kelly's children saw as pressure. And Kelly was stuck in the middle, the sandwich generation feeling more like a panini press. She was trying to be the bridge, but she was feeling the strain from both sides. She was defending her children's independence to her mother while simultaneously feeling the sting of their absence herself. It was an emotional tug of war, and Kelly was the rope. She felt she was failing everyone. But the strain with her mother was merely a preview of an even greater heartache, one that would involve her firstborn. Because her son Michael was about to make a life-altering decision that would test the very definition of family. A mother's love for her son is a unique and powerful force. Kelly's first child, Michael, has always shared a special, visible bond with her. He followed his parents into the business, and for a while, their worlds beautifully overlapped. But then, as it must, life called him on his own journey. The decision for Michael to move to Los Angeles to pursue his directing career was a professional triumph, but for Kelly, it was a personal earthquake. This wasn't a child going to college a few states away. This was a fundamental shifting of the family's center of gravity. Los Angeles might as well have been another planet. The daily texts, the impromptu lunches, the simple knowledge that he was close, that was gone. And this is where the story gets deeply relatable. It's not that she wasn't proud, she was bursting with pride. It's the quiet, private grief of letting go. It's walking past his empty room. It's setting the table for 4, not 5. It's the phantom limb of motherhood. You still feel the presence of the child who is no longer there. She supported him publicly, of course. She cheered him on. But privately, she was grappling with a loss. Not a loss of him, but a loss of the era they were in. The house was quieter. The family unit, as she had known it for over 20 years, was officially and irrevocably changed. She was happy for his future, but she was mourning her past. And just when she thought she was navigating this new emptiness, a crisis with her other son would reveal that the job of mom was far from over, because Joaquin was facing a battle of his own that would bring a terrifying real-world fear crashing into Kelly's world. If a child moving away is a slow, aching grief, a child facing a health crisis is a sudden, terrifying freefall. For Kelly and Mark, this became their reality with their son Joaquin. While the exact details have been kept private out of respect for their son, the emotional toll is a universal language for any parent. Imagine the phone call, the kind that makes the world stop turning. The rush to the hospital, the sterile smell, the crushing helplessness of seeing your child, no matter how old, vulnerable and in pain. In those moments, every career achievement, every television appearance, every bit of fame means absolutely nothing. You are just a mother praying in a hospital chair. This crisis stripped away all the non-essentials, the silent treatments, the logistical spats, the hurt feelings over distance. It all evaporated. What was left was the raw, primal core of family. For Kelly, this was a brutal wake-up call. It clarified everything in the starkest terms. Her family wasn't a project to be managed. It was a living, breathing entity that needed her love, not her control. It was in that hospital, facing her worst fear, that a shocking and inspirational idea began to form in her mind, an idea so radical it would change the course of her life and her family's future. And it all started with a single, silent decision she made in that hospital room. As Joaquin began to recover, Kelly didn't just breathe a sigh of relief and go back to normal. She knew normal was what had gotten her here, stressed, stretched thin, and feeling like she was failing. Sitting by his bedside, she had a profound realization. She had been trying to hold on to a version of her family that no longer existed. Her children were not children. They were adults. Her mother was not her manager. She was a woman with her own fears about aging and relevance. She realized the problem wasn't her family. The problem was her role within it. She had been the family's CEO, trying to control outcomes and manage relationships. But what her family needed wasn't a CEO. They needed a matriarch, a source of unwavering strength and unconditional love, without the strings of expectation. This was her turning point, the inspirational pivot. She decided then and there to stop managing and start connecting. She made a vow to herself: no more guilt trips about visits, no more passive-aggressive comments about life choices. She would lead with vulnerability, not authority. She would tell them she missed them instead of asking them why they weren't there. She would support her mother by listening to her fears rather than defending her own choices. It was a complete overhaul of her emotional operating system, and the first test of this new philosophy would be the most public event of her life, an event that would bring all of these threads together in one stunning, emotional moment. And that moment was just around the corner at a star-studded event where the world would see the results of her private revolution. Recently, the world saw a different Kelly Ripa at a major public event. She was, of course, radiant and professional, but if you looked closer, you saw something new. Her eyes kept drifting to the sidelines, and there they were, her entire family. Mark, her rock, Lola, her confident daughter, Joaquin, healthy and strong, Michael, who had flown in just for this, and her mother, Esther, with tears of pride in her eyes. This was no accident. This was the culmination of her silent work. She hadn't demanded they be there, she had simply shared her excitement about the event and left the invitation open. And they all chose to come, not out of duty, but out of love and a desire to celebrate her. In that moment, as she looked at them, she wasn't a manager looking at her team. She was a matriarch looking at her legacy. The storm had passed, the silence was filled with the sound of their applause, just for her. The problems didn't magically vanish. Distance is still real, generational gaps still exist, but the struggle is gone. It has been replaced by a new, profound peace. Kelly Ripa's story teaches us a powerful lesson. It is never too late.